Welcome to the #1 5-star rated show for the first steps into entrepreneurship. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest episodes. Enjoy.
You're listening to WERALP Arlington 96.7 FM. Disclaimer. Please seek the advice of a financial or legal professional in any and all business ventures. This show does not constitute financial or legal advice. And now, the show that helps you go from wannapreneur to entrepreneur. The Swift Kick Show with Timothy D. Craggett. Entrepreneurial tips and advice with a kick. Here's Tim.
Good morning. It is Thursday, January 12th. Wow. We're already in the second week. It's time for the first kick. Real estate. A lot of people love getting into real estate. Real estate. But it's not as simple as you may think. Or is it? Well, I was thinking about that as one of the things for a business for somebody in the new year, and was like, well, it would be really cool if I knew someone that was doing it. And just so happens I met someone that's doing it, but they're also doing something in stocks. So in both of these two investment vehicles, we got some pretty good knowledge. So in this show today, we're going to talk about a couple of things that you could be doing to add to your business that can help you have stability no matter what you're doing, whether it's online or offline. So I hope you enjoy what we're going to do here, because I'm ready to learn. I got my pad out. I got my pen ready. And I've been talking to people about this interview for a while, because this is something that, amongst friends, it's like a mystery. So now I get to crack the code with someone who's already cracked the code. Quick break, as always. Swift Kick Show. I'll be right back with my guest.
Did you know this is only the beginning? There's always more show just for you. We have exclusive interviews and bonus content to help you on your journey into entrepreneurship. Go to www.swiftkickshow.com to learn more.
And welcome back to the Swift Kick Show here on WERA 96.7 FM. I am, again, Timothy D. Craggett, and I am, as always, it seems every week, ecstatic to have the guest that I have on this week. Now, totally new in my world, and I just can't wait to see what I'm going to learn, because being that this whole thing of online just connects people in many different ways, you never know who you're going to meet. And the person I have, it's just cool. So let me tell you a little bit about him and bring him in. So the guest that I have is a professional real estate investor focusing on properties not just in his local area but around the world. And one of the cool things is, because of that, he's able to actually be an options trader, which we'll get into what that means as an option trader. But without further ado, I'd like to bring on my special guest, Larry Steinhouse. Larry, how you doing, dude?
Hey, Tim. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. This is kind of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you for agreeing to be on, dude. So let's start in the beginning. Now, I just saw a really, really cool video. And I think that this story is actually pretty cool, because a lot of people can relate to it, especially if they went through 2008. So let's start there. So what was the beginning parts of you as being Larry in this world of finance?
Well, the beginning parts, I guess, was, I used to have a little piggy bank when I was a little kid. I used to put money in it. That would be the beginning, right?
Cool.
But I know what you're referring to in 2008.
Yeah.
And then just to take you a little bit before that, I've been a real estate investor since I was 18 years old.
Right.
I was always doing everything very conservatively. I always made sure that there was money in the real estate, such as equity. and that my rent covered my bills, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
being smart, intelligent investing.
All right.
Somewhere around 2006, I decided to get greedy and stupid.
Okay.
And I started buying real estate on speculation, which, by the way, anybody listening, never buy real estate on speculation.
Right.
If your real estate agent says that this property is going to go up $1 million, it's not. And even if it is, and you bought it because of that, you made a mistake. That's just a great bonus. It's it's the whipped cream on top if that happens.
Right.
So, but if everything else works, then that happens. That's great. If that doesn't happen and everything else works, you're never going to get hurt. So, and that's what I'm doing now. Obviously, that's actually what I did before. But again, 2006 and 2007, I got greedy. I started buying on speculation. At one point, I owned like about $3.9 million worth of real estate.
Cool.
And I owed $3 million on it, which is fine. There's nothing really wrong with that, right?
Right.
Until one day, the real estate that was worth 3.9 was worth 1.2.
Right.
So and when you're stuck in that position, you do some math, and I just did some math, and I realized that I will never get out of this mess. There's really no way out of this. And luckily, we live in a country that lets you push the reset button. Right. So I literally walked into an attorney's office, a bankruptcy attorney, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about going bankrupt. And he goes, okay, great. And he must have, there was so many bankruptcies in 2008. It was amazing. Right. But, so the first thing he would ask, I guess, of his clients is, what's your credit score? Yeah. Figuring he would use that as an entree into, oh, yeah, I'm going to sell you on the idea of bankruptcy. So I look at him and I go, 720. Oh. And he goes, 720? You can't go bankrupt with a 720 credit score. Right. I go, watch me. So I showed him all the numbers, and he looks at me and goes, I've never seen anything like this, but yeah, you need to go bankrupt. Oh, man. So I did that. And, when you go bankrupt, it's obviously, I always tell people, I'm not proud of it, right? But you get to reset, you get to start over, and it's really nice. And, again, I don't recommend going bankrupt. I recommend avoiding it. Yeah. But if you're in a situation where you have to do it, you have to do it. Right. And, I bounced out of 2008. I've got no money. I've got no credit. And if anybody's listening out there and they're a real estate investor, it cracks me up. Or beginner real estate investors always say the same thing. I can't invest in real estate because I have no money and have no credit. Yeah. I said, well, dude, I went back into real estate with a 420. I mean, literally, I think it was 420. Wow. Was my credit score when the next day when I went into the Toyota dealer to buy a car, the guy looks at me and goes, you realize your credit score is really bad? And I looked at him and I laughed and I said, yeah, that's fine. He goes, if you really want this car, it's going to be 24% interest. And I said, okay, wow. Where do I sign? And, it wasn't even, the guy didn't expect me to say yes. Right. He probably never had anybody in his office say they would take a 24% interest rate, especially on a car, right? Right. And if you're smart, you realize that that's a temporary thing. Plus, don't forget, I just walked away from $3 million worth of debt, right? Right. So to pay a little bit extra in my car wasn't a big deal. And that was the first thing I did to start rebuilding my credit. And in fact, walking into the Toyota dealer was intentional. It was about rebuilding my credit. It wasn't necessarily about having a car. I had a car. So what you have to do, and there's many things you can do, and I could probably do an entire webinar on how to rebuild your credit. Right. My credit, it was funny, I was just on Credit Karma 2 seconds ago. Remember, it's 2008. So it's 2016 now. My bankruptcy is still on my credit report because it'll be there for 10 years. My credit score is in the low sevens. I have about $200,000 worth of credit available to me on credit cards. And so I have no problem getting loans anymore. As a matter of fact, it was funny. I bought my BMW and I was going to buy it cash about a year ago. And the woman looks at me and she goes, yeah, we have a special. And I only buy used cars because, that's a whole nother, it's another thing, right. for prudent investing. I only buy used cars. And she goes, we have a special on used car loan for 3.2%. And I'm like, 3.2% on a used car? That's incredible. And she goes, and I said, I actually looked at her. I said, I don't even think I'll qualify. And she ran my credit. She goes, yeah, you qualify. What's your problem? I said, I don't know. I didn't even think I would. And I looked at her. I said, I'm going to give her cash. I said, at 3.2%, I can't borrow money like that anywhere. Right. So I decided to borrow the money. With 3.2%, I took the loan. So that's how good my credit is, and that's how I've repaired it. And now I'm doing a bunch of stuff in real estate. Right. So let's go right into real estate. So what was can you describe like your first
property that you purchased? Because you showed me a picture of it, and I was like, that's a great story to start with. So let's talk about the first one.
Okay, so like, I'm 18 years old, and I'm working. I don't know if anybody remembers a company called Crazy Eddie.
Okay, yeah.
You remember? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And I'm a technician. I'm making $5 an hour on Crazy Eddie, which was higher pay than most of the people in Crazy Eddie, by the way. So a friend of mine who's working with me, he's a real estate investor. He's doing some things down the shore, and he's telling me about it every day. So I figured, it's time for me to invest in real estate.
Okay.
And I really had no idea how to invest in real estate. I didn't even know what to do. So I go to the gym one day, and I'm pedaling on a bicycle, one of those stationary bikes.
Right.
I'm looking for something to read while I pedal. And sure enough, there's one of those real estate magazines out there. I grabbed the real estate magazine out. And if some of you don't know the geography, I'm in Princeton, New Jersey at the time. And I see an ad for a house in a town called Easton, Pennsylvania, which is about 2 hours-ish from Princeton.
Right.
But I have no idea. So I called the real estate agent that day. It was a 2-family house listed for $26,500. Now, remember that $26,500, first of all, that was 1981-ish,
Okay.
82-ish, whatever.
Okay.
And, so that's probably equivalent to 80 or 90, maybe even 100,000 now, if you do some math. So just so you get an idea.
Okay.
It's still low, but it's still that equivalent. So I go out there. She shows me the house. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm looking at. I have no idea anything. I just said, okay, fine, I'll take it. And she says, well, I need $1,000 deposit. And I look at her and I go, I don't have $1,000. She goes, can you give me 100? And I was too embarrassed to say no. So I wrote her a check for $100, not even having the $100 in my checking account.
Right.
I just knew that I had a couple of days to get it in there before she actually cashed the check.
Right.
So she calls me up. She says, the seller accepted your offer. She goes, you're going to need about $3,600-ish to close. And I go, okay. I hang up the phone going, what am I going to do now? I don't know where I'm going to come up with this $3,600.
Right.
So remember, I'm getting a loan, so it was a little easier, and I'm like, $3,600, what am I going to do? So just to fast forward, I do close on the property.
Yeah.
I get this book about a month later called No Money Down by Robert Allen.
Right.
Some of you guys know it. And I actually read how I did it. I was pretty impressed. I'm like, wow, look how smart I am. He wrote about how I did this.
So
and basically, just so you guys, just because everybody always asks me at this point,
yeah,
I basically bought it with credit cards. I found that money. I took cash advances on credit cards and bought the house. I made the biggest mistake ever a year later.
Okay.
I sold the property for a 50% profit.
Hmm.
You go, what?
Yeah, you could have held on to that. Yeah.
50% profit? That's a mistake. It's what I've learned since is buy and hold is the absolute best way to build wealth and build a steady residual income.
Right.
So and again, I still did very well, of course. But of course, now I know better. And what I do now is I just hold on to my properties, let them give me income every month, and I live off it.
Cool. So let's do this. Let's take us a really, really quick break, and we'll actually get into the meat and potatoes of how someone can actually figure out the beginning parts of being a real estate investor. We will be right back. This is the Swift Kick Show on WERA.
The conversation doesn't end here. We'd love to hear from you so we can better provide you more great content and some fun stuff. To learn more, go to www.facebook.com/Swift Kick Show. Look forward to being friends.
Welcome back to the Swift Kick Show. I am Timothy D. Craighead here with my good friend Larry, and we're talking real estate. So let's dive deep into this thing. So a lot of people hear about creative financing in real estate, and because you're using, you started with using credit cards as part of your financing for your very first deal, what are some of the things that someone could just do to kind of get started, even if it's just getting information? What's some of the things that they could do?
One of the things I come across all the time are newbie investors.
Yeah.
Who always think that they have to find the money before they find the deal.
Okay.
And that's absolutely backwards.
Okay.
I hear that. I mean, I go to real estate meetings and the newbies will come up to me and go, where can I find private money?
Right.
And I'm like, everywhere. And I go, no. I don't know. Who do I go? Do you know anybody? Do you know anybody? I go, you know people that will give you private money right now. And like, no, I don't. I said, I promise you, I promise you, if you have a deal that is so good that no one can turn it down, you will find private money within a day. And they're like, I don't understand. What do you mean? And this is basically, Tim, just to tell you the story. I mean, every time I buy a property,
Yeah.
I just simply go to contract with it. I have no idea where the money's coming from. Now, at this point, I have to tell you, I mean, I probably could buy them cash with the money that I have.
Right.
But I don't want to buy any property cash. It's the worst way to buy properties.
Right.
But I could if I wanted to. But I've never bought a property cash since things have changed.
Right.
Now, and again, a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, I couldn't buy property cash anyway. It just so happens that I've done very well lately, so now I could. So even 3 or 4 years ago, I couldn't. But if I was to find a deal, I'd simply put it on paper. Tim, you're selling me this house that's worth $200,000 for $100,000. Okay, here it is. Sign here. I'll come up with cash within 30 days.
Right.
And I'm giving you the contract. You're agreeing to it. And let me tell you something. If your house is really worth $200,000 and I'm really buying it for $100,000, and that's absolute, within 5 minutes, I'm picking up my cell phone and I'm calling anybody I know with money and going, I'm buying a house that's worth $200,000 for $100,000. You in? And they're all going to say yes.
Right.
And as soon as they say yes, they're in. Now, they could be partners. They could be money lenders. They could be anything you want. One of my first deals that I borrowed private money on, it was hysterical. I mean, I had put the offer in, whatever, and I hadn't even started looking for money yet. And somebody was coming to me, and they said that we were talking. We were actually at a real estate meeting,
Yeah.
and we were talking about a couple of different things. And I just turned to him. I said, I'm so excited. I got this deal today. It's just so exciting. And I tell him about the deal. It's $50,000. I got to put 30 into it. I can rent the place for $1,600. When the after repair value would be about $140. And he looks at me and he goes, how are you funding it? And I go, I haven't even decided I haven't even looked yet. He goes, I'll give it to you. Just like that. I'm like, really?
Wow.
So he said, and it was a low interest rate too. It was actually only 6%, which was pretty good.
So
this is how it works. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. How does someone find people like that? Like there's, most time whenever you're seeing a course or anything, they talk about like REI clubs and such. How does someone find one of those things?
So you mean find money or find a deal?
Well, let's start with the deal first, and then we'll go to the money.
Yeah, so this market is beginning to get really hot. So I will tell you there are less deals out there. I'm not going to tell you there are no deals out there, because that's the big problem that real estate investors have, is they go, oh, there's nothing out there. Everything's too expensive. I'm not going to buy it. Yeah. Well, then stop saying you're a real estate investor and just, go out and call yourself a whiner, because that's what you are. If you want to be a real estate investor, you have to overturn rocks. It's the only way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So look, you could go to a real estate agent and you could find properties. You're not going to find the greatest deals with a real estate agent. And by the way, real estate agents, and I'm one of them, I'm also a real estate broker, so people know this.
Mm-hmm.
So just so when I say this, you understand where it's coming from. Real estate agents are the dumbest people on the planet when it comes to real estate investing.
Mm-hmm.
So stay away from them. Use them for what they're good for, which is searching the MLS for you. But if they tell you it's a good investment, they have no idea that it's a good investment. If you have certain rules and certain formulas that you use them. That's fine.
Right.
So you could find a real estate agent, one. The other thing I do is I send out about 1,000 letters a month to various people under certain criteria to basically overturning rocks.
Wow.
So people will call me and say, hey, as a matter of fact, if I recall, when I met you, my phone rang, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Actually, just letting the audience know, I was so terribly upset when this happened, because it was a great opportunity to actually see this thing in motion, and I so wish I had it. But yeah, I can attest to it. A lead came in at an event that we were at, and it. I'll just let you finish on that. Yeah. So the phone rings. It rings all the time. I probably get 3 or 4 phone calls a week about people wanting to sell a house. Now, and again, if you're a real estate investor and you're greedy, you're not going to make money. I go in with the attitude to every single person who calls me, how can I help them with their situation? Right.
And in this case, that woman, and we talked about this afterwards, the situation with the woman was, she had a house, she paid $110,000 for it, at the heat of the market, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And, she still owed 80 something thousand on it. And she says to me on the phone, she says, I don't think it's worth anything more than 50,000. So right away, every real estate investor listening to this is going, well, why would you be interested in that?
Right.
So the reason I was interested, I'll tell you what happened at the end, but the reason that I was interested in it is I said, I said, what is your mortgage payment? Our mortgage payment was about $800. That includes principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
Right.
So if our mortgage payment is $800, and by the way, it was a 2-family house, I know I'm getting at least $750 to $800 in rent on each side.
Right.
So there's profit in there if I take over her mortgage. So if I take over her mortgage payment, I'm not going to give her anything because the house is worth less than the mortgage is worth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even though I'm underwater in the property, I'm making cash flow every month if I was to buy the property. Now, it just so happened I went to look at the property, and it was really bad. I would have had to put too much money into it in order to get it habitable again.
Right.
So it wouldn't work out. If there was more meat in it, maybe. But in this case, and I actually advised her to stay there. She hadn't paid her mortgage in months anyway. I said, stay there, let them foreclose on it. You'll probably be there for 2 or 3 years. Not the greatest thing to happen to her, but at least she gets to live for free for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's go into the whole thing of, actually, let's see. We got a little bit of time left. We got to make this really, really good. Okay. So if someone wanted to get started and it was just the basics of doing anything dealing with REI, what would you say would be the first few tools that someone could start with to get themselves started?
The absolute first thing you want to do is start hanging around real estate investors. You're going to gain so much knowledge. Like in our area, we have an organization called DIG, Diversified Investment Group. It's cheap. It's like $150 a year. I mean, I realize I'm in Pennsylvania, so your audience can't join it. I mean, they actually can, but it's not going to do them any good.
Right.
But there must be some organizations somewhere in your area. Find out what they are and join them. Start going to the free meetings. Start talking to people. Look up a meetup group. Look up real estate meetings. Start going to them. Start talking to people. You're welcome to connect to me on Facebook. As a matter of fact, if you want to connect to me, I'll be more than happy to tell you everything I can help you with. I'll help you with anything I can help you with. So Larry Steinhouse on Facebook, and you'll know me as the Crazy Options Trader if you're looking me up. We haven't gotten to that, but so if you're looking me up, you can find me. But hang around with people. You become the people you hang around with. It's real.
Very cool. Let's see. One thing we'll do right before we break out, because I do want you to stick around for the extra. So, sure. Anyone that's listening, there's a lot of stuff that we really can't get into. And as you see, we're kind of pressed on time and we really just started the conversation. So, make sure that you go to iTunes and Stitcher and hear the extra part of the conversation. We didn't even get into talking about options yet. But as for right now, thank you so much for being on the Swift Kick Show. This is not the end of the conversation, but thank you for being on so far.
Oh, thanks so much. It's awesome, man.
Awesome. And we'll be right back on the Swift Kick Show here on WERA 96.7 FM.
Shows like this need your help to continue broadcasting through radio for the Arlington, Virginia community and online. Donations from listeners like you help create great programming to enrich the mind and spirit. To help WERA 96.7 and its commitment to promote community-based radio, please go to www.wera.fm and click on the donate button. Every little bit counts, so please kick in a little. Again, go to www.wera.fm. And now, for more of the Swift Kick Show with Timothy D. Craggett.
So now it's time for the last kick of the day. First off, I want to thank Larry. Larry, thank you so much for being on the show. Can't wait to talk some more about the stuff that we didn't even really get into. I'm just so stoked to learn all this stuff. I feel like a kid in a candy store being on the Swift Kick Show, because I get to, just like you, learn some things that I normally wouldn't. But let's recap. So we learned about what it is to be an investor, whether it is in, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and in this case, real estate. The things that we talk about with options, that's going to be really cool. But we learned that it is something that anyone can do, no matter where they are, no matter what they're doing. and it's one of those flexible businesses that can actually be a background business. I've seen so many people in my online space use their online income to solidify it in property, and it's something that's been around for ages. So why can't we do that today? I think that is one of the most awesome things that we can do as far as business owners. And so, Larry, thank you so much for shedding the light on this. Now, for anyone who wants to learn more about this, of course, you can go to www.swiftkickshow.com/Larry to get more great information from this awesome dude. So with that, I will see you guys next week. This is a Swift Kick Show on WERA 96.7 FM. I am Timothy D. Craigat.
You've been listening to the Swift Kick Show with Timothy D. Craigat. For more information and bonus content, go to www.swiftkickshow.com. Tune in next week for another kick.
And welcome to the extra for the Swift Kick Show exclusively on iTunes and Stitcher. I am Timothy D. Craigat, and I just want to get right into this thing. I mean, Larry's here with me, and so much to talk about. All right, cool. So let's do this. So we didn't really get a chance to go super deep into things, and this is like our opportunity to do that. And Larry's been gracious enough to say, "Hey, I'm an open book." So let's get right to it. So let's talk options, because that's the big thing I really wanted to get into was this challenge that you're putting yourself on. And let's actually just start with what an option is, because a lot of people know about, trading stocks and all that, but what's the option game?
Yeah. So stock options are basically you pay someone for the option to lock in a price. So for example, if you have a stock, let's say, Tim, you had a stock that today was selling for $100 a share.
Okay.
And I said, hey, Tim, I'll give you $2 for the right to buy that stock for the next 90 days for $100, which is trading for today. No matter what the stock goes up to. If it goes up to 150, I can buy it for 100. If it goes up to 80, if it goes down to 80, well, obviously I'm not going to buy it, and you can keep my $2 or whatever I said. So $2 is you're giving me the option to buy the stock at a certain price,
okay,
for a certain time, and it is really as simple as that. So what happens is you end up leveraging so much money. You control so much stocks with such a little bit amount of money. So for that $2, I'm controlling a $100 stock.
Okay.
So think about this: if the stock goes up 10%. Goes from 100 to 110, the guy who owned the stock, if he didn't have the option, he would have made 10% of his money. If I paid $2 for that stock option and it goes to 110, I've made $8 on my $2. Well, I made $10 on my $2 for a net of $8. That's an awesome return. That's a 400% return, where the guy who owned the stock had a 10% return. Here's the negative side. Of course, I pay $2 for the option. What if the stock goes to 90 or even stays at 100? If it even stays at 100, it cost me $2 and I lost the $2. That's the risk with options. It's 100% risk. Although I've learned to mitigate that risk, where I have certain plays and certain rules that I follow that I've actually printed, that I actually created, that will make it so that you won't lose all of your money. You lose a lot less than all of your money, and most likely you're going to make money if you follow these rules. Matter of fact, I've been following rules, and it's funny, if you've been following me at all on Facebook, I recently broke my rules and had the worst disaster trade I ever had because I broke my rules. Okay,
so you got to tell us this story. So what happened?
What happened? I got, it always seems to be, the story always seems to be the same. It always seems to be that I get greedy. I get greedy and I screw up. So, one of my rules is don't gamble, I guess is the best way to go. Don't gamble on earnings.
Okay.
So Facebook earnings were coming up and I gambled on them. And sure enough, the funny part was The earnings report was great. Everything was great. Zuckerberg says something like, we're growing so much that we can't possibly grow this much anymore.
Right.
And the whole stock market reacted to it for a drop of about 10 points, which I had a lot of options out there. So you can imagine, I told you what 10 points does on the positive side.
Right.
You can imagine what 10 points does on the negative side.
Right.
I can handle a point or two, which is what I really expected if it would have been bad. But it went so bad. Then you had another thing that happened was, I decided not to just, okay, you know what? Cut my losses, move on. Let's just be smart. I made a mistake. No, I held on.
Mm.
and then there's the election. Now, we also knew that, you don't buy over the election, which is fine, but I already owned this.
Right.
But what happened was there was a huge sector rotation.
Okay.
And because I had all these options on this earnings that I should have got rid of, the sector rotation stole all my money away. So I had no money to buy on the way back up, which is what my plan would have said to do. So I got really trounced. And again, it was all about breaking rules.
Right.
I also broke 4 or 5 more rules in that same trade. That cost me a fortune. Actually, it's really interesting how I watched it. I actually did a couple of videos back. I actually put them all on the board, every rule I broke, and I actually still have the board. One is I didn't sell it at the goal. I gambled over earnings. I didn't buy over the expiration date, and I have something called a dead zone, which is when you're supposed to buy, not sell. And I actually sold on the exact day that I predicted the stock would be the lowest between the 2 earnings points. I wrote it a month before. It happened, and I sold on that day. Oh. And if you look at the board, the day's right there, and it's the lowest point. And I actually said, this is when it'll be the lowest point. And I wrote it, and it was real.
Oh, man. How'd you feel afterwards?
I still feel like an idiot. Well, look, here's the good part.
Yeah.
The good part is I'm still up $250,000 for the year.
Okay.
Now, can you imagine how much I would have been up?
Yeah.
I would have broke the $500,000. I would have broke the $500,000 range if I didn't make that mistake and was able to hold out to be able to profit from the Trump rotation.
Right. Jeez. Oh, that's such an expensive lesson to learn.
Yeah, it was a very expensive lesson to learn. The only good part is I won't pay as much as taxes.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. There's always a silver lining.
Yeah, right.
So talking about this, one of the things that I picked up from you was the ebook, and I'm going to send people to this. So if we didn't hear the link before, www.swiftkickshow.com/Larry, and you'll be able to get yourself a copy of this ebook. It's actually pretty decent. One of the things that, let me see if I can find it really quick, that stuck out. I was reading through your definitions, and I had a little bit of confusion. I had to kind of reread it a couple times, but do you mind if we go through just the 3 that's in the ebook?
Sure, whatever you'd like to do.
Cool. So the strike price, what does that mean?
Yeah, the strike price is the price in which I can buy the option. So in the example we gave before, where I said that you had a stock for $100, I give you $2 to guarantee me that price.
Mm-hmm.
So that $100 that it is today, and it could be a different number, but the $100 is the strike price. So I'm saying that I'm going to give you $2 to guarantee me a strike price of $100. Now, sometimes the strike price could be less than $100. So let's say that you have, for example, the stock is 100, and I buy a strike price of 95. So I have to give you $5 plus the $2 because there's already $5 built in, right?
Okay.
It's intrinsic value. It's already built in. The $2 will be time value.
I see. Okay, that makes more sense. So how does this work in the negative? Because if let's say we're using the $100 strike price as an example, and wait, I think I just answered my own question. So if the strike price is less than what the stock is sold for, you get the margin in between.
Right. Obviously, that person's going to say, "Hey, well, you got to give me the $5 first, and then give me the time value that you want to buy hold the option for."
Okay.
So that's actually called an in the money option.
Huh.
When you buy an option that's worth today's dollar or less, it's called an in the money option.
Okay. Cool. Let's dive into this crazy 100,000 into a million in 1 year thing that you're doing. Okay. One, why are you doing it? But no, let's go back. Let's go backwards. So let's actually go with what was the inspiration behind it, and then let's find out why you're doing it.
You're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you, which is the inspiration. Your whole audience is going to go, "Huh?" You ready?
All right, go for it.
All right. So I think it was, if I could do the math right, it must have been 20 years ago. I think I read an article about, you'll never guess who.
Robert G. Allen?
Nope. This is a famous rich person.
A famous rich person. I'll do one other guess, and if I don't get it, I just don't get it. Warren Buffett?
No.
Okay.
You ready?
Okay.
Hillary Clinton.
I would have not gotten that. Tell me. Okay, you got to tell me why Hillary Clinton. What happened with Hillary?
So Hillary Clinton, it's interesting. It must have been, I think it was like something like 20 years ago, whenever, when Bill Clinton was running.
Yeah.
I think it was People Magazine did an article on them. It was a great article on the Clintons.
Yeah.
And inside the article, it talked about Hillary Clinton turning $1,000 into $100,000 in 1 year as an investor.
Right.
So since then, that's been in my head ever since I read that article. And I just said, I'm going to be able to do that one day, but I'm going to do it with more money. I'm going to do it with 100,000 and turn it into $1 million. So I've now mastered, I should say mastered, because I don't think you can master anything that has to do with the stock market.
Right.
But I believe I have a skill and I have a set of rules that works that can get me from 100,000 to $1 million. And I'm going to do it. And believe it or not, and it still cracks me up that Hillary Clinton was my inspiration for this. It's just hysterical, isn't it? But that's the truth.
Wow, that's crazy. So, all right. So if you're talking about 100,000 going into $1 million in 1 year, what type of return are we talking about here?
So it's about a 22% return every month.
Every month.
So every month, right? So the balance in my account has to go. Actually, matter of fact, so the first month I think it's actually 21.5% return. So the first month, January 31st, if I'm on track,
yeah,
100,000 will be $121,500 if I'm on track.
Wow. And you'll so pretty much you're going to Einstein this thing and compound each month with your gains. Is that right?
Right. And actually, the first month is easy. The second month is, not easy. But start thinking about, when you have $500,000 in the account, you start making moves. You've heard before how quickly you could make or lose money.
Right.
So $500,000 can go to 300,000 overnight if I make some mistakes.
Wow.
So it could be bad, or it could work out. And the other thing that I'm doing too, just so you know, 10% of the account, and I've announced this before on my Facebook page, 10% of the account will be going to charity, split between 10 charities. So whatever is in the account, Christmas Day of 2017,
yeah,
I'm going to take 10% of that, and I'm dividing it between 10 charities. So obviously these 10 charities are also rooting for me.
I would imagine so. Jeez. So, okay. It's a little hard to wrap your head around if this is something that's foreign to you. And for me, this is completely foreign. But let's knock it down a notch. So what would you say is the minimum that someone could start with if options was something that they wanted to get into?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people ask me that. In fact, I've taught people who put $1,000 into an option account.
Mm-hmm.
I've taught them, they've turned it into $1,200, $1,400, $1,500, which is awesome. I recommend, however, you really start with something a little more substantial, maybe $5,000 or $10,000, just so you have a little more leverage and you can make mistakes. If somebody puts $1,000 in an option account and they make one mistake, the account's worth $300. What are you going to do with it? So that's why it's not the greatest idea. But if you make some quick hits, you could turn that into $1,500, $2,000, and then work with that, and then continue on in that direction. So yes, $1,000 is probably the minimum, but I would recommend $5,000 or $10,000 to start with.
Interesting. And from that point, they can kind of just follow the ups and downs of learning how options actually work. Because I think you and I had this conversation, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there's only one guarantee, and the guarantee is that you will lose money at some point.
I never said that.
Oh, then I misunderstood.
And I will never say that.
Okay, so correct me then. So
will you make a bad trade? Is that you may make one or two bad trades?
Yeah,
but you're not going to lose. There's no guarantee you're going to lose your money. There's also no guarantee you're going to make your money. But there's no guarantee you're going to lose your money. If you follow the rules that I've created, highly likely to make money. Highly likely, and highly likely to not lose a lot of money.
Right.
So even if you make a bad trade, if you follow the rules and made a bad trade, it could happen. It happened to me once or twice throughout the whole year that I made a bad trade following my rules. Whenever I lost a substantial amount of money, it was because I didn't follow my rules.
That makes sense, and I think I realized where I misunderstood it. And let's see if I could find it really quickly. Well, while I'm looking for that, let me ask you this question. So, how can someone actually see what's going on? Because on your Facebook page, which we mentioned, and actually, you know what, let's go on ahead and mention it really quick, just so we can make sure we can get some people to see what's going on. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this is right. www.facebook.com/Larry.Steinhouse.
I believe that's the one. Yes.
All right, cool. So how can someone tune in to see how this is going for you for the year?
Well, the first thing they can do is obviously look at the Facebook page. They can also click through to my website, which I think you have a link on your website for now, right? So they can click through to my website, and they can subscribe so they can get the videos. Will we automatically email to them every time we make a video?
Okay.
There'll also be some opportunities for webinars and also opportunities for one-on-one coaching if they decide they wanted to do that as well. Also, my rules that I keep talking about are available now. They're actually available currently, and if they go to my website, they can get those rules as well. I charge $19.97 for these rules, and you ready for this? I give somebody double their money back if they lose on a trade because they followed the rules. If they're following the rules and they lose on a trade, I'll give them $40. That's how sure I am that they're going to make money following the rules.
Nice, cool. So yeah, we definitely have that link set up, and just in case you missed it, www.swiftkickshow.com/Larry to get that information. One other thing I want to go through just before I let you go, because full disclosure, and I've talked about this in Podcast Builders Club and other products that we've released. The good thing about a recorded event is that you never know what the mistakes are because they get edited out. But I'll full transparency, we had a little problem and it was my fault, but it's okay. Edits do happen, so that's always a good thing. But Larry's been a trooper in keeping up here, and I wanted to thank you for that. But I'll let you go on this. The one thing that scares a lot of people when they get into the world of either real estate investing or in your world of options trading is just getting past the first initial action, the first thing that they got to do. What would you say to someone for them to have the confidence to take the first step?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a total philosophy that I have that will cover all of this, or anybody who ever thinks that they should, everyone who's scared to take steps financially. I did some research the other day, and I found out that the average person at 65, now, most people don't even have anywhere near this.
Yeah. But
the average person retires with $162,000 in the bank. Okay. Now, I got to tell you something. Most people out there are not average. Right. They're retiring with a lot less than $162,000, if not zero.
Right.
So here's my philosophy. And one of the biggest problems that people have is they think they have to hold on to that 162,000. And if they're trying to hold on to that 162,000, they're in more trouble than they think. This country is a great country because it takes care of its poor, or if you make a mistake, it'll take care of you financially. So here's the worst case scenario for anyone who's got just a little bit of a brain. The absolute worst case scenario is you're broke. You retired, or you got fired from your job. You had nothing in the bank, and you were 65 years old, or 66 or 67 years old. Worst case scenario, Social Security. So you're getting a check from Social Security every month. You're on Medicaid, so your Medicare is taken care of, and you're on food stamps. Worst case scenario, you have a roof over your head, you have health care, and you have food. You know what? I got to tell you something. I've been to some poor countries like Nicaragua.
Yeah.
And the middle class doesn't live as good as the person I just mentioned on Social Security, Medicaid, and food stamps.
Wow.
So you're doing pretty well in a worst case scenario. Now, if you start to live your life in stages above that, so how far above that am I going to get? You ever play the game? Remember the game of life?
Yeah.
You go to the millionaire mansion, right?
Right.
So the poorhouse is the one side, which isn't horrible. I mean, you're still alive. The millionaire mansion is the absolute. It's the whatever. You become Donald Trump, whatever, right?
Right.
That's the millionaire mansion. I had him. Since I mentioned Hillary, I got to mention Trump, right? So, that's the millionaire mansion. But there's so many levels in between the two, and one is some people are fortunate enough to have a pension. Now, I'm not, because I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've never really had a pension. I don't have a 401k. I don't have anything like that.
Right.
So I have to generate residual income, an income that would replace a pension. And what I've done for that is real estate. So when I buy a property, it gets me $200 or $300 a month positive cash flow. So every time I want to increase my cash flow, another $200 or $300 a month, I buy another property. Now, sometimes it requires me taking money out of the bank, just a little bit, because I was talking before, I usually borrow money, but maybe I have to hold on to the property for 3 or 4 months before I get it rented, so I got to pay that mortgage for a little while, or maybe I have to put a little bit of money into it, or I didn't borrow. I don't like to borrow 100%. Sometimes I borrow, maybe even 98%.
Wow.
Because I miscalculated, maybe, usually, so maybe I have to put an extra $5 or $6 grand. So whatever, I'm taking that money out of the bank, but it's turning into residual income. Mm-hmm. So I never can end up, I'm always ending up ahead. So let's say I make a complete blunder and I go into my options trading account, which, whatever, the one account has 100, whatever I have there, and I lose 100% of my options money. If I lost 100% of my options money, I'm still living at 53 years old. I don't have to go to work ever again in my life. And I'm living better than most retired people right now because of the choices I made. And I never have to worry about it. In fact, it's pretty funny. I'm about to pay off my mortgage on my primary residence. So I actually owe $5,333 left on my primary mortgage because I've been taking money from my options trading. And every time I made a big hit, made a lot of money, I would take a piece of that and pay off my mortgage. Mm. So I paid off a $200,000 mortgage in 1 year.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
That is.
And it's all because I took a risk. Now, if I would have not taken the risk and left whatever $200,000 in the bank, I put it in a bank at 0.03% interest, I would have $2,001 now, $200,001, and still have my mortgage on my house, right?
Right.
And so I'm better off than everybody because I took the risk. And then let's say the guy, and the other thing is the guy doesn't take the risk. He has his $162,000. He still has to go on Social Security because you're forced to go on it anyway. Mm-hmm. He may or may not be on Medicaid because depending on what his income is, and he may or may not be on food stamps. Actually, he won't be on food stamps because he has $162,000.
Right. But
how long is $162,000 going to last? Let's say he could stretch that and only live on $10,000 a year, which that's not going to happen. He can only live for another 16 years.
Yeah.
So either way, what's the difference? Take the risk, and maybe you'll make your life better. If not, you sit back on the worst case scenario, which you're already in, if you only have $162,000, and you don't even realize it. If you got $7 or $8 million in the bank, I get it. you don't want to risk that.
Right.
But if you have 100,000 in the bank, no, risk it. Who cares? If it goes to zero, you're there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Cool.
a very different philosophy than most people have.
Yeah, it's definitely unique, but it's definitely something that I think everyone could get benefit from. So I truly appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show again. Thank you for doing the extra. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome, man. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you. So guys, this is the extra. And as always, tune in next week for another Swift Kick show. And I look forward to talking to you guys soon.